And it was a very bad tackle from Alfie May, wasn't it? Deservedly a red card.
Bottom of the table, Blackpool were when Ian Evatt came in. I imagine that will change pretty quickly. I think it's changed already, to be fair.
The overall feeling here is it's a team of superstars, but not a superstar team.
Hello and welcome to the League One Lowdown review episode with myself, Seb Jones. Not joined by Jamie Johnson this time, but instead we've got an adequate replacement, you could say, in Callum Davis from the previous show. Callum, how are you doing?
I think adequate is a word that really describes me quite well, actually. Thank you, sir. Yeah, I'm all right. A bit nippy in Lincoln this morning as we're recording this on a Sunday, but not too bad. Cold like Lincoln's performance yesterday. No real heat to it yesterday, but I'm sure we'll touch on that a little bit. Not many goals in League One, but some important ones, I think, is how we sum up this week.
Yeah, definitely. A lot of 1-0s or 1-1s, really, not one for the goal scoring bonuses, I think, this weekend. But yeah, certainly still, plenty to discuss as ever. So, if you've never listened to us on sort of the review show, we tend to look at 5 or 6 games in detail, and then we'll sort of run through the rest of the fixtures towards the back end. So we'll start with our first game. I guess the pick-up, probably, I think, the highest scoring game on Saturday, and that was a game between Wycombe and Huddersfield. I guess plenty to unpack, but ultimately, Callum, Wycombe got the victory.
Yeah, and it was well deserved. I mean, it's fair to say, obviously, that the big asterisk over the whole thing was that, and it was a very bad tackle from Alfie May, wasn't it? Deservedly a red card, and I think his reaction to being sent off tells you a lot about the mood in the Huddersfield camp at the minute, doesn't it? That something's not right there. They are slipping down the table, which again, it's 3 defeats in a row for them. I mean, like, something is not right in that camp. We talked a lot a couple of weeks ago. You and Jamie did about why is Alfie May playing as a midfielder. He got his chance to play up front in this one, and then gets himself sent off, doesn't he? What's happening? What was going through his mind to make that, and then obviously kicking the advertising board, leaving the pitch. It doesn't reflect well on the camp in there. But Wycombe, for their part, made a good advantage of all of that. It was a stunning second goal. Great strike. Own goal for the third one. But, we're starting to see improvements from Wycombe. They are going up the table unbeaten in 4, 2 wins in that time, up to 17th in the table. They're not doing, they've got a bit now of a buffer, 3 points to the relegation zone. Things are starting to click there, which is good for Wycombe fans.
Yeah, absolutely. And they're unbeaten in their last 5 in all competitions. Obviously, there's an EFL trophy game against Fulham under 21s in there. Read into that how much you will, but nevertheless, it's still 5 unbeaten in all comps. And you're right in terms of, like, momentum does seem to be shifting. Ever since Michael Duff has come in, he seems to have changed things round, and pretty quickly as well. Whenever a new manager comes in, there's always a question in terms of how long will it take for the players to get firing. When the results start picking up, but they picked up pretty quickly.
Yeah, and maybe some of that's the new manager bounce. Maybe some of that's Michael Duff, having that chance to say, here's the players that I've got at my disposal. It is a real mismatch of players, a real, they have got so many players, don't they, that it's kind of just like, well, surely you've got to be able to pick a decent starting 11 out of the amount of talent they've got there. They're ticking along quite nicely, and a lot's been said about Michael Duff after his past few managerial jobs and not being able to deliver on that expectations. I think Wycombe's a really good place for him to kind of rebuild his reputation as a League One manager. What his ceiling is as a coach, not entirely sure, but I think League One is a good level for him. And Wycombe, a club that tend to do quite well at this level consistently, and I think he's found a good club there to, like I say, rebuild his reputation. One manager that's not rebuilding his reputation. Not that he had particularly much of a reputation as a coach anyway. It's Lee Grant, who is really struggling. And I think that the overall feeling here is it's a team of superstars, but not a superstar team. If that makes sense, they're really struggling with that team cohesion. They probably have, position by position, one of the best 11s in the league.
Yeah.
They don't have a great team, do they, at all?
No, not at all. And that is sort of proven in terms of the recent results. It's 4 defeats in a bounce in all competitions. Again, an EFL Trophy game in that one, but that one's against Harrogate, who were the division below. 3 consecutive league defeats. 3-0 thumping here. Last couple of games before that, 2-1 defeats, and there seems to be a real negativity about the place. Lots of reactions on social media and Twitter in terms of saying, changes needed. Basically, League Grant out. It's really hard because actually Huddersfield started the season really well, really strongly, and League Grant's first managerial position. They're like, okay, wow, Huddersfield are going well, and then they've just absolutely dipped off. Like it's as if something, a switch has been made, and all the players have just turned against me and not performing on the pitch. But it's Lee Grant that's going to feel the brunt of that, surely sooner rather than later, Callum.
Yeah, and what's curious for me is that the fans were chanting that before, like they were saying that before before they went on this run, which is what is interesting to me. Like they would have obviously seen something maybe in the style of play, perhaps, but it's curious that they were, there's that clip that I've come in for a bit of grief for, saying, that they probably shouldn't have booed him so soon, and maybe that's fed into it. We talked a bit about Plymouth and their fan base recently on the preview show this week. Fans' expectations are high, and when a team doesn't immediately meet that, like with Plymouth this season, like with Huddersfield as well, like we saw with them last season as well, fans shift quickly. Fans don't have any loyalty in football because they've got expectations, especially with these big clubs. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing, because they've got loyalty to the club. They don't have loyalty to the people that run the club, if that makes sense. And yeah, the brunt is falling on Lee Grant, and like I said, I'm sure he's probably a good manager. I'm sure he's probably got the skills to develop into a good manager, but you don't want to go to a club like Huddersfield as your first job. You really don't. It's a really confusing choice for him personally to try and develop his skills. I think it feels like a weird place to kind of hone your skills, because you want a place where there's no pressure, don't you?
Yeah.
And he's got all the pressure of Huddersfield.
Yeah, exactly. Because of the expectation, I guess, with the club there, they probably, well, they've been in League One longer than they would have liked, really, in terms of the owner, Kevin Nagel. He wants the club, back up in the Championship, if not the Premier League, really, which is where they were not that long ago. But at the minute, they just seem to be stuck in a rut in the third tier and unable to get out of there. So, yeah, it will be interesting to see how, I guess, Huddersfield progress over the next couple of weeks, whether they continue. They've got as a lot of the sides have, they've got an FA Cup fixture next weekend, so I guess a chance to get some sort of thing to cheer about, really. And then next league fixture is at home to Plymouth at the start of November. So a couple of interesting fixtures for Huddersfield. I guess from a high scoring one to one of the low scoring games of the day on Saturday. This one came slightly out of the blue, I think, in terms of what we're on 93 minutes, zero shots on targets, 0 shots on target between Bolton and Cardiff, and up pops Koji at Dewberry. Proper smash and grab this stuff, isn't it, for Bolton?
Yeah, and after a poor weekend for all the top sides, it's brought them right into contention. They're now just 3 points off the top. But when you've got special players like Koji Dewberry, that's you've got those sorts of flair players that, again, might not have done much. I'll have to admit, I've only watched the highlights package of this match, but it didn't seem like it did an awful lot during the 90 minutes. But when you've got a flair player like that can just show up and do a little bit of magic like that's the difference between a fairly average season and getting up there. And full respect to Bolton. I think they're finally getting that that consistency. It was a stunning goal, wasn't it? It was a great finish. It's their first back-to-back league wins of the season. We've spoken so much about Bolton having that quality, but not necessarily having that consistency, and this will go a long way to doing that. Cardiff, though, 2 defeats in the last 4. Obviously, they've got 2 wins in that time. They're still in the top. I think they're still top of the table, aren't they? So we can't be too critical of them. But cracks starting to show, I think, a little bit.
Yeah, I think so. And both defeats have been 1-0 as well. So it's that thing that they've only just been edged out, which I guess you'd rather that than be completely thumped. But it's the fact that it's just a small differences between Cardiff and the recent opponents. And I guess you're right in terms of the finish from Cozy Dewberry in this one. There's nothing you can do about that. But actually, when you are so close to the end of the game, it must be so frustrating to concede so late, really, in terms of not hanging on for to get something out of this game. The game prior in the league they lost as well was 1-0 to Burton, and that was sort of in the 80th minute as well. So and again in the late stages of the game, and I'm not really sure what it is. I'm not sure whether there's sort of maybe one too many substitutes that the team were unable to hold their sort of ground, or if it's to do with like a mentality issue. Really, I'm not really sure. But actually, considering the late goals is a concern, especially for a side that will be pushing towards the top end of the table. We mentioned that they are top of the table. They played a game more than Stevenage in second. They played a game more than a couple of teams further down as well because of the international fixtures being called off. So that is certainly something to keep an eye on in terms of Cardiff perspective. They've had an unbelievable start to season, 8 wins from 13. Incredible. But actually, there are some signs, as you said, some signs of the cracks appearing for Cardiff. I don't think it's massive sort of sirens needed. I don't think it's massive sort of warnings, but it's a little air of caution, I think.
And just looking how this game played out as well, it wasn't like Cardiff were the better side as well, really, for most of the game. Okay, Cardiff had more of the ball, but like we say so often in football, and get your cliches ready. It's about what you do with the ball these days, isn't it? For Bolton, they were at the higher expected goals, more shots. Cardiff only had 4 shots in this whole match, which is poor. You expect a team top of the table to be creating a little bit more from that. And for all the ball they had, they didn't exactly do a lot with it or have the ball in the right areas. So perhaps, maybe it was a deserved win for Bolton. Just the nature of the goal kind of lends it to that smash and grab perspective. It is interesting to see what Cardiff do with that, because like you say, is there that inability to grind out results? We could say that, but then again, that 4-3 win over Leyton Orient and 2-1 win over Reading kind of lends itself to the opposite narrative. So it's interesting to see how it develops there. Obviously, Brian Barry Murphy as manager there. I think I'm still unwavered on him. Other members of this podcast have been quite critical of Brian Barry Murphy. Interesting to see how he does over a full season. Like we say, it's clearly we can't be too critical. They are top of the table, and we did all predict them to I think we all predicted them to miss out on the playoffs. So they are doing better. But I think the final thing I'll say is every point counts. When you've got a league that 3 points separates first and seventh now, you've got 3 teams tied on 26 points for the top of the table. Like, every point is going to count, and how important are those, not being able to grind out a draw against Burton, a draw against Bolton, how important is that going to be come the end of the season? We'll find out.
Yes, so those late goals, isn't it? And it's another side that grabbed a late goal on Saturday to this time to seal victory, and that was Blackpool in their tie against Peterborough. We'll come to, I guess, off the field matters in a second, because a lot has happened at Blackpool. But I guess as for the game itself, I think Blackpool will be relieved to have the 3 points, Callum.
Yeah, I think we'll start with how, not necessarily how Blackpool won it, but how Peterborough lost it. Defending, I've written, and this was my initial thoughts, defending like children's football. and it does feel like that. Like they were just running after the ball, not like getting themselves into positions. They're like, oh, ball, must go and get, must go and tackle, must go and grab. Almost like under 12s football. Which coincidentally is when I gave up playing football, so it probably says a lot about my ability to play it. But you're starting to see that influence of Ian Evatt come into the Blackpool side. Obviously, he's not had a huge amount of time to
Yeah,
do it,
yeah.
but some of the positions they're taking up. It was a great strike from Banks to win it in the 85th minute. Obviously, the off the field matters of Peterborough as well.
Yes, yes.
It's
Plenty
it's an interesting
to
time for Peterborough,
it.
isn't it? Very
It
interesting
is.
time.
It is. Yeah, I guess we'll focus on Blackpool for now, given they got the win.
Yeah,
And I guess the big talk of the week is that they have finally appointed a new manager
took
in
them
the
long
last
enough.
few days. Well, absolutely, yeah, in the last few days, in terms of Ian Evatt is the man that they've appointed, former Bolton Wanderers manager, actually played for Blackpool 254 times. So a man that knows the club, a man that knows sort of what it takes to represent Blackpool. And had pretty good success with Bolton. So he got brought in earlier on in the week, and in his first league game, he couldn't have got off to a better start. You mentioned the 3 points, you mentioned the good goal to win it at the end. I think, yeah, as I mentioned, I think they'll just be relieved to get the win. Really, bottom of the table. Blackpool were when Ian Evatt came in. I imagine that will change pretty quickly. I imagine I think it's changed already. To be
Yeah,
fair,
they're already 23rd, I
yeah,
think. Yeah.
I imagine they will just rise and rise, sort of up the table more, sort of to a place where we expect Blackpool to be. But I guess Ian Evatt will be pleased when to sort of get off the mark. That new manager bounce, getting that first win under the belt is crucial.
I think it's the manner of the win that will please him most. This was a game where they weren't the better side. For as much as we
Yeah,
criticise Peterborough, they were the better side in this. Higher expected goals, more chances, more shots, more of the ball. But it was a game where Blackpool made the most for most of the game.
yeah,
But they made the most of what they got, and that's what an Ian Evatt side wants. They want them to be clinical with their chances. I think was it Ian Evatt that said in one of his interviews he wants them to be the best at everything. That he wants total dominance. He wants to be all over everything. And okay, that didn't happen in this game. But again, being on top of everything, being dominant means being clinical, and that's what they were. They were getting the ball in the right area, hence the own goal and bits like that. There's already signs of the players wanting to play for the manager, and I
yeah,
think
yeah,
that's the crucial thing. I think they'd kind of lost that with Evans, but now you're seeing a side that wants to play for Ian Evatt, and by all intents and purposes, he's a manager that will let you know how he feels about you, and if he doesn't think you're good enough, you're gonna know about it.
yeah.
But sometimes you need tough love. You need tough love in football, and he gives them that.
You do absolutely that. Then in terms of Peterborough, so this was a bit more recent in terms of Peterborough sacking manager Darren Ferguson just after the full-time whistle on Saturday. They'd only won 3 of the last 13 games, and they found themselves towards the bottom end of the table. So managers, it was Ferguson's fourth spell at the club. And in that time, he's got 4 promotions with Peterborough and also 2 EFL Trophy wins. And I don't know if you've seen the statement that Peterborough put out, but Darren McAntony, sort of within the club statement, said he's made a decision to terminate Darren Ferguson's contract after today's game. The decision wasn't taken lightly, but it's a decision I feel is the correct one for the football club. The gaffer for me is the greatest manager in the club's history, who I will always consider to be part of my family and the club's family. From Monday onwards, we start healing and moving forward. Goodbye, legend, and thank you. So quite a nice
Hmm.
statement in terms of ultimately the manager's been sacked here, but I guess the bond that Ferguson has with the club is evident based on his leaving statement, and one that I think in terms of his sacking, one that I think we saw coming for quite a while, really, for Peterborough.
Yeah, but let's put it this way: what my initial thoughts were, well, it had to be done, but it's
Yeah,
too
yeah,
late. and
Yeah.
goodwill can only do so much in football. We all know what Darren Ferguson has done for
Yeah.
Peterborough. Like I say, he will go down as a club legend, but do club legends leave the club they love in 24th place in League One? Is all I'll say about that. As good as he is, the signs were there last season, and again, I think the recruitment has to be looked at under a microscope
Yeah.
here. It hasn't been good enough over the past few seasons. But then again, a good manager does also make the most of the tools. You can't always blame the tools. I think it's interesting what Darren McAntony has said a bit before. What one of the lines is: "It's time to go again, freshen up, and enter a new period of growth in all aspects on and off the pitch." Well, I don't know what growth that is in League Two,
Yeah.
but how do you expect to grow on and off the pitch when you're in League Two? I suppose the only growing they'll be doing is from all the 16-year-olds they've signed as future prospects. They will physically be growing because they're children and you're playing them in
Yeah.
League. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
The recruitment is wrong. The manager stayed too long. He's gone. I don't want to use this phrase because it sounds really harsh, but he's past his sell-by date.
Yeah.
He really is
Yeah.
past his sell-by date. Not evolving with the style of football in League One, and it was the right decision. It's just the right decision. 5 games, 10 games too late. He should have gone over summer. Let's put it this way: if he's so much of a club legend, why not let him go in the summer, where he's got
Yeah.
time to say goodbye? When the club was safe from relegation last season, get a new manager in, get them to reshape the squad over the summer period and mould the club in their image. Instead, a new manager's going to come in at some point next week, probably the week after, when they don't know. Do you know what I mean? When they've got to make do with this squad until at least January, probably for the rest of the season.
Yeah.
It's a sorry end, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's a weird time to suggest there's going to be so much change when, as you said, we're still 2 months off from the January window. The summer was the perfect period to make all these changes that supposedly has been that has been mentioned in the statement, and it's just it's weird. It's really weird, I think.
Well, everything at Peterborough has been weird the past 2 seasons, hasn't it? It's been a really weird football club.
Yes,
and I don't half of McAntony's statement. I don't particularly understand where he's coming from. That's the bit that really annoys me. Is come on, you could have, if he's so much of a legend, sit down and have an honest conversation with him. He won the League Cup, didn't he? We forget, how brilliant of a high would that have been? Guy did a tough season to safety, and you've won a trophy in your final season. Instead, his reputation, because I can't see him going back there now. Can you see him going back there? Not really.
He won't go back not for a 5th spell. Not for it.
Well, we said that about a 4th one.
Well, yeah. Unless they were in deep trouble, and they needed someone to rescue them. We're looking at sort of maybe February, March time in a season, and they needed someone to come in and just rescue them from safety if they were in that position. Then maybe so, but I can't see it happening really. Apart from
his long-term reputation has been tarnished now. Because all Peterborough fans they'll think of the trophies, but then they'll also think of the lasting impression of being 24th in the table, 4 points from safety, all of that. So that's what they'll think of.
Yeah, 9 defeats from 13 games so far this season.
It's poor, isn't it?
It's really poor. Yeah, it's really poor. Yeah.
And again, we must say it's not just his fault. As with all of it, there are multiple factors. The recruitment is a huge issue, isn't it?
Yeah.
But we saw this. This has been going on for 18 months now.
Yeah.
He's got to take some responsibility, and in the short, in the end of it, we know that his head is the one that gets chopped off.
Absolutely, yes. We'll move on now to chat about another game. That was quite a big deep dive, that wasn't it? In terms of two managers that have two managerial changes in terms of and the 2 clubs happen to be playing each other at the weekend. So that's the fixture gods to thank for that one. But this one not so lengthy, I guess, but there is the South Yorkshire derby at stake and bragging rights between Barnsley and Rotherham United. Not your typical South Yorkshire derby. I do have to say, in terms of it's a little bit flat in terms of the atmosphere. Very cold in terms of obviously the.
It's Yorkshire, isn't it? You're used to it.
Well, it is Yorkshire, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Very cold, very flat, and it's just neither side, particularly in that first half, neither side really got any sort of rhythm going on, momentum building, and it just meant for quite a frustrating watch at times. But we'll come on to the goal in a second. But Rotherham United obviously came with a plan to sit back for as long as they could, get sort of one moment of quality, and then sit back to hold on for the lead and that moment of quality. They've not won at Oakwell, Rotherham United, since March 1969. So over 56-year wait for the win at Oakwell. And courtesy of Keane Spence, they got that win. And what a goal it was, Callum.
It was a stunning goal. It's rebounded out to him, and he's hit it from about 25 yards in it. And it is a stunning strike. It is a great strike. I will say Barnsley had plenty of chances to win this.
Yeah,
they had plenty of chances to win this. They had that. I don't know how he's missed it from a corner. I think he's about 2 yards out. I know it's coming to him quite fast, but I don't know how he's.
So
I don't know how he's
that one,
missed it.
Yeah, David McGold did that one.
I don't know how
you back to score. Yeah,
you back it, but then again, like, don't want to say it, but is he at League One level these days? Like, he was good in League Two last season, but only because you're good in League Two doesn't mean you're going to be able to make that step up. I mean, let's have a look at the top stats that we've been going through. You had 2/3 of the ball, Barnsley, XG of 1.37 to Rotherham's 0.13. 19 shots, 2 big chances. Again, what defines as a big chance? I'm still not entirely sure, but big chance. You had the chances to win it. But again, you have that little bit of quality. Like we said with Koji Dubry, if you have that one player who can pull something special out of nothing, and they've done that, Rotherham finding a bit of form. And it's kind of come out of nowhere, because we kind of just thought they'd be a bit of a bit part team this year, just, kind of in the middle of nowhere. They are up to 15th in the league, 3 wins on the row. They come up against Burton next. For Barnsley, you wonder where I would say you wonder where the next win's coming from. They're playing Doncaster next, so that's probably a good chance.
They too are not in fine form either. Yeah, in terms of if you look at the Rotherham picture even bigger as well, it's 5 unbeaten in all competitions. Again, like with other fixtures, there's an EFL Trophy game in that one against Oldham, but the rest are all league fixtures. A 2-2 draw at home to Bradford is not a bad result at all, and then the 3 consecutive league wins, which they've now got after the result on Saturday. Yeah, they're slowly finding a bit of form after a sticky start to the season. They struggled. They didn't get their first. Well, they won on the opening day of the season against Port Vale, but then after that they didn't get another victory in the league until the start of September. So after that sticky patch, they seem to be finding a bit of form and a bit of momentum. As for Barnsley, they don't have a league win since the 13th of September. So we're talking over a month here, nearly a month and a half in terms of their last league victory. They won midweek in the EFL Trophy against Manchester United under 21s. Take that as you wish, probably with a pinch of salt. And also, Man United were also down to 10 men for nearly, I think, 40 minutes off that game. So they're playing 10 men against these young people for quite a lot of that, and they were the 5-2 victors. McGoldrick scored a hat-trick, but there's only so much to read into that an EFL Trophy, as you should. But in terms of league form, not great, and does need improving. They've got a chance to reset, if you like, next Saturday in the FA Cup against York. But then after that, another South Yorkshire derby fixture away this time to Doncaster Rovers, which Barnsley need a win. There's been a few rumbles of pressure for Conor Harbour, and nothing sort of extreme, and nothing to sort of imply that he's not the man. I think Barnes fans know that he's the man to take them forward. They're obviously just when the form is not the way fans would like, or evidently as we've just said in terms of their lack of victory in the league, it's frustrating, I think, for the fans. And rightly will be some pressure, but nothing major at the minute in terms of on Conor Harrahan. But yeah, you can't say it's not deserved in terms of we mentioned the lack of win for a while. So yeah, but they've got a chance to put things right. Obviously, a break from league action next week, and then the weekend after bragging rights. Although I hate that. I hate that term, but bragging rights are at stake in the South Yorkshire Derby again. So we shall see how they fare. And then the last game we're going to look at in detail is the game between Wimbledon and Burton. Again, just a singular goal in this one that separates the two sides. It was one of the early kickoffs in the league, and another victory for Burton.
And again, the definition of a smash and grab.
Yes,
Really,
yes,
it really, really is. I mean, Wimbledon were again not by far, but they were the better team.
yes,
It is one of them. But when you look at it, Wimbledon probably should have had the result. If sport was a meritocracy, if football was a meritocracy, then Wimbledon would have won this game, but they didn't. It is typical Burton, isn't it? And this is the type. Yeah. These are the types of results that Burton will need throughout the season to stay up, and they're doing a good job of it so far. The big turning point of this match, obviously, the missed penalty. And the 34th minute from Omar Boogel. It was, it was a moment that would have taken them top. If they'd have scored that penalty and held out for the win, we would have been talking about Wimbledon being top of the table. Which I know football, turns on a sixpence, doesn't it? And it's all about these fine margins. But could you imagine us talking about Wimbledon being top of the table? It's mental. But it is a great header. It's a powerful header from Alex Hartridge to get them 3 points. And again, we talk a lot about Burton and is this going to be the season that they struggle? When you look at the table and you look at the teams around them, you expect Plymouth, Blackpool and Peterborough at some point to find form.
Yeah.
But they're not. So Burton, they've got 3 wins in the past 5, which is good form. They've got 10 points from a possible from the last 5 games. They dropped 5 points out of 15, which is good form. It's more than a point a game. That's the sort of ratio, isn't it, that we associate with relegation. As long as you're getting a point a game, more than a point a game, you should be all right. And Burton are above that for now. Obviously, they've got a bit of Staffordshire rivalry with Port Vale. That seems to be the battle at the minute for the final relegation spot at the moment. Things probably changing in the future, but fair play to Burton. We always we joke about them. We say, we always take the mick out of, it's a small club, small stadium. Is this going to be the season that they finally get relegated? But at the minute, the league and the style of football that's being played in the league is going to lend itself to them. And the sort of direct old Barclays era style football is what's going to give Burton the win and a shot at safety. So fair play to him and all power to him. Let's see if Burton can again pull off. I don't think it'll be a great escape so far this time, but survival.
Yeah, survival will be the aim. I guess as for Wimbledon, been proper high flyers at the start of this season. 8 wins from 14 altogether. There is 5 defeats in that one. They lost obviously to Burton at the weekend, but their last defeat has not been since the start of September. So the 6th of September was when they last suffered defeat before the weekend. So that's a big amount of time, big chunk amount of time. There's only 1 draw in that as well. The rest have all been victories, which is sort of surprising, really. The fact that they have been able to pick up wins against the clubs that they have. wins against Doncaster and Wycombe amongst their Plymouth as well. They just seem to have been continually just be ticking on, and then just been halted in the track though by Burton, and a typical, a smash and grab really, and sort of housery, should we say, from Burton, just to see the game out, and not really give Wimbledon a sniff towards the end.
For want of monetization, thank you for missing out the first part of that word. It's one of them. For me, it's now about how Wimbledon bounce back. I mean, I could say this about most of the teams. I know Stockport haven't played this game week yet. They play tomorrow as we're recording this in a Monday night fixture. I think they've got Port Vale, haven't they, off the top of my head?
Yes.
So, it was a week where none of the top six have won yet. Stockport still got to play. The only teams picking up a point was Stevenage, Bradford, and they drew, didn't they? Which we'll come to. It is a let off for Wimbledon in terms of they've slipped up, and so has everybody else in the top six.
Yeah.
But how will they bounce back is kind of what I'm saying now. How will Cardiff bounce back? How will Lincoln bounce back? We'll get onto those games in a minute. It's all about how these teams bounce back, and that to me is we'll see in the next game week, albeit it's not for a while for some of these teams. I know there's a couple of midweek fixtures, but it's about how these teams will bounce back. How will this is how champions are made, isn't it? This is how you you test the mental strength of a team, and it's about how do Wimbledon bounce back. Obviously, they've got a poor result against Burton, which a couple of the top teams have so far, to be fair, this season. Their next game against Peterborough might have a new manager by then. That will be a very tough test, and we'll talk about it on the preview show with Sam, so subscribe so you don't miss that episode in a week or so's time. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be very, very interesting how they bounce back.
Yes, it will be. And as you said there, Callum, no League One action as such next week because it's the first round of the FA Cup. So all the League One clubs are involved, but obviously against opponents of varying leagues and divisions. So I'll come on to that in terms of how that affects stuff for our usual review show next week. But before we do, we'll just run through the rest of the fixtures from the weekend. We'll start with the game that took place on Thursday, the Devon derby between Exeter and Plymouth. That finished 2-0 to Exeter. As for the other results, finished Mansfield 1, Wigan 1. Leyton Orient were 1-0 winners in the League One Lowdown Preview derby. They were 1-0 victors over Lincoln. Northampton Town lost by the same scoreline at home to Luton. Luton, good to see them sort of grabbing victory for the first time in a while. Finished Reading 1, Doncaster 1, and the same scoreline for Stevenage against Bradford. It's worth saying as well, there is a Monday night fixture in the league between Port Vale and Stockport County, and Sam and Callum gave a little spiel, give a little preview for that in their last preview episode. If you've not checked it out already, feel free to give that a watch or listen on the League One Lowdown YouTube or Spotify page or wherever else you get your audio from. So next week, myself and Jamie will be back, this time with a different episode. We're going to do an interview episode, which we've not done for a little while. That is with Lincoln commentator Tom FM, chatting all things about Lincoln and their starts of season, and also chatting about the new release of Football Manager. So Tom FM, if you don't know who he is, he's a YouTuber basically that sort of does a lot of videos about Football Manager and the gameplay, and sort of gives recommendations in terms of teams to play with or other sort of tactics and little secret tricks and hints on Football Manager. So we'll be chatting to him, but he also commentates on Lincoln City. So we shall be getting all the insights from Lincoln from Tom FM. So that'll be myself and Jamie similar time next week. So we won't necessarily have a review show of the FA Cup fixtures, but Sam and Callum, you'll be back next week, won't you?
Yeah, we'll be back. We'll have a look at some of the FA Cup action. including
Yes.
Lincoln City, which I think it's much needed. Will they bounce back? Obviously, we'll have a look at some of the games as well that happened in midweek.
Yes.
Obviously, a big match towards the top of the table, Lincoln against Bradford. That will be interesting to see how that plays out. So yeah, we've got a lot coming up and some exciting plans as well as we head towards Christmas already. Feels like it wasn't that long
Yes.
ago since the season started, but
Absolutely. Yeah.
it's sun is now setting before 5 o'clock.
Yeah. Yeah.
Got the dare I suggest the M&S picky bits of all the different Christmas stuff. God, we're in peak football season now, aren't we?
We absolutely are,
Oh
and
dear.
yes, long may it continue. So yeah, that's it from myself and Callum. Reminder to constantly check the League One Lowdown Twitter page and also our accounts on YouTube, Spotify, and the other audio platforms as well. So that's it from us. We'll see you shortly.